Time Out magazine calls it a spectacular movie whose technical achievements, notably the sharp editing, will surely provide a gauge by which subsequent comic strip films are judged. Vincent Canby of the New York Times says summer hasn't officially arrived yet, but it's unlikely to offer a big-budget commercial movie as thoroughly entertaining as the stylish real-life cartoon. And Keith Phipps of Slate says that the film moves at a chug when it should put the pedal to the floor. On this episode of Ruined Childhoods, we decide the fate of Dick Tracy.
Sequel. Reboot. Which one will it be?
The Ruined Childhoods Podcast.
Greetings, Starfighters. It's time for another episode of Ruined Childhoods, the podcast where we take those beloved movies from your childhood and or the movies that you weren't ever aware of during your childhood.
We throw them in the trash.
The ones that you totally missed, the Transylvania 6,500s of the world. But
we barf all over them. We ruin them.
No, we celebrate them. We celebrate them.
That's true.
And we discuss their past, present, and potential futures. I am Dan Wiener.
Hey, I'm John. How's everybody doing today? You're on your morning commute. You're in your evening commute. You're walking your dog. You're just like hanging around the house.
Maybe you're not actually doing anything else. Maybe this is your focus. Maybe
you have like some crazy job where you just have to listen to podcasts that no one else is listening to. And you're like, this podcast gets like 30 to 40 listeners an episode. I'm going to listen to this one. And here you are. And here we are talking about Dick Tracy.
That's 30 to 40 more people than usually listen to us talk about movies. So
that's true.
We appreciate you, and we're glad that you're here.
So before we launch into things, Dan, the Dr. Sleep trailer. Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about that indeed. Yeah. So Dr. Sleep, for those not in the know, was Stephen King's novel that he wrote as a sequel to The Shining, which the sequel focuses on a now adult Danny Torrance, who
played by Ewan McGregor.
Ewan McGregor. And I'm sure I think I'd heard something that they were making a film of it, and I hadn't read the book, but I had kind of forgotten about it until you sent me the link to the trailer. And I have to say, as a fan of the book, the Stephen King of The Shining, I will make an attempt at reading Dr. Sleep before the movie comes out. I'm kind of interested. I have a long reading list right now, but as a fan of the book and as a big fan of Stanley Kubrick as a director, with The Shining actually being one of my lesser favorites of his.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, well,
we talked about Clockwork Orange on the last episode.
Oh yeah, I love Clockwork Orange. I mean, and don't get me wrong, like the worst Stanley Kubrick film is still better than most movies out there. So, but my issues with The Shining kind of come with like in the novel, Jack Torrance he's definitely got his issues, but he's kind of, a regular guy. And in the movie, just from the beginning, Jack Nicholson's portrayal of Jack Torrance is like he's kind of nutty from the beginning, and you don't necessarily
he's a little eccentric.
You don't see why. And if you've read the novel, there are little, I guess you'd call them Easter eggs that are that if you've read the novel, you look at it, you say, oh, okay, I know what that is. Like there's the one shot where you see, and we won't tangent too much on The Shining, but there's that one shot where you see the two people in the bedroom in the hotel. Jack Nicholson sees, or it might be, I think it's Wendy, Shelley Duvall sees, and it's like the guy in the bear costume, and he is filleting a gentleman who's not in a costume, or is it the other way around?
When you say it that way, it sounds more gross.
Okay, so I forget who's blowing who, the bear or the guy. All right? There.
Right.
Sorry. And if you read the book, you understand because they give you more of the background of the Overlook Hotel and the history. And Kubrick's film jumps a lot of that, I think, for the sake of atmosphere and sequences, because there are sequences, and I enjoy it more and more every time I see it. I think because of what I'm looking at or what I'm looking for. And after I saw the documentary Room 237,
which is excellent,
all about Kubrick-based conspiracy theories, I watched the movie again with kind of a renewed interest, but I felt that the build didn't work. It wasn't effective for me, and therefore I didn't necessarily find it as scary as I think many people do.
So in the trailer for Dr. Sleep, it's clearly directly referencing the film adaptation of The Shining, and maybe less so the book itself. In the trailer, you see a lot of flashes from the original movie, The Shining, and a lot of those sequences come back. So it'd be really interesting to see. And I love that it's a sequel that takes place this many years later. I think that's a really cool thing to do. And that's in a lot of ways, and granted, this is an adaptation from a book, but it's in a lot of ways in the spirit of kind of what we're talking about here, where it's like, you know, let's say a movie from 1990, like Dick Tracy, like we are talking about what could happen if there was a sequel picking it up now. Not to say we're necessarily going to be talking sequels for it, but I don't know. I think it's pretty neat because usually when you get a sequel, it's a couple years later. Occasionally you'll get one that jumps ahead a couple decades, but for something like The Shining, where it's just been this standalone thing in its movie form for so long, it's really interesting for there to now be kind of something picking it up. And I think that Ewan McGregor is a really cool choice to play adult Danny Torrance. And based on the trailer, his portrayal feels like, oh yeah, what is going on with this kid after having experienced that as a child? Like, I want to know. Yeah.
And I've been a huge fan of Ewan McGregor since Train Spotting and Shallow Grave. I discovered him through Train Spotting, and then pun intended, dug up Shallow Grave. But you know, was a huge fan of Ewan McGregor. And
we've talked about Down with Love on this podcast. It's an awesome movie.
Down with Love is a fun movie. So I had read an article where the writer and director of Dr. Sleep, Mike Flanagan, was interviewed, and he's got some real like horror cred. He directed the Netflix Haunting of Hill House, which I haven't seen, but I've heard it's really scary.
I hear it's crazy. I just saw the trailer today. Because I saw the movie Booksmart in the theaters, but I saw the trailer for Midsummer. And what seems really fascinating about that one is it's a horror movie that takes place like during the day. And, you know, that's so cool. Like you don't really see a lot of that where it's just like bright and sunny out.
Yeah, no, I've been hearing some cool things. I've been hearing some great things about that. But I just want to back up to your point about whether or not is Dr. Sleep going to hew more closely to the Kubrick Shining or the King Shining, which, by the way, Stephen King is very outspoken. If you're listening to this podcast, you probably know this, but very outspoken against Stanley Kubrick's version of The Shining, because he, like I said, took out a lot of the book in order to make the movie he wanted to make. And which actually was referenced a lot when ABC did their miniseries, I think in the 90s, of The Shining with Steven Weber as Jack Torrance, where they tried to show they really tried to film the novel, and it would have worked a lot better with a huge Hollywood budget. And that has nothing to do with the acting. Steven Weber was great, and Rebecca De Mornay plays Wendy and is much, much more accurate to the book's depiction. She's a former cheerleader, which...
Well, I guess the miniseries just didn't have wings. It's a Steven Weber joke.
Yes, we get them daily. Tim Daly.
Oh, nice. And boy. This is when everyone presses stop and puts on some other
well, what
podcasts.
shall we discuss next?
Oh, boy. I don't know, but I could really use some THC, Thomas Hayden Church. I don't know. Anyway, let's talk about something else. Yeah.
Yes.
So anyway, watch that trailer if you haven't seen it. It's crazy, and it'll be really fascinating to see what that movie's like. The only other thing that I wrote down is that there's going to be and this has been, I don't know if we've discussed it before, but it's knowledge that there's going to be a sequel to the movie Gladiator, and it's just been announced that it's going to be taking place like 2 decades after the original, which tracks because here we are.
Oh, so is the main character going to be like the kid, the son of what's her name? I'm trying to remember the actress's name who plays Joaquin Phoenix's sister in the original Gladiator.
I don't remember. Yeah.
So here's my question: is Ridley Scott just kind of like dusting off the hits?
Well, it's kind of just like, all right, let's see. I'm tired. What else? What do we got?
But I'm thinking about how, like, all right, in 2012, he did Prometheus, so he did his first Alien movie since Alien, so he returned to that. And then, even though he didn't direct Blade Runner 2049,
he was a producer.
Yeah, he did. Right. He was, heavily involved. And granted, I thought that was awesome. I thought Blade Runner 2049 was fantastic.
It's really good.
Yeah. So, but I'm just with Gladiator, I'm a little more skeptical about it. And how is it a sequel? And how is it not just another Gladiator movie? How is it continuing that story that had begun?
Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and maybe not see, because we might not see it. It's not at the top of my list. So in the original Gladiator, it's good.
It's a good movie.
Yeah. It's
a good movie. Yeah. Not my personal best picture of 2000, but.
So let's move on to Dick Tracy.
Calling Dick Tracy.
Dick Tracy, winner of 3 Academy Awards. I think it's set design, costume design. Oh, no, makeup, which is definitely deserved because the makeup in this is extraordinary. Oh, and Stephen Sondheim for an original song that's in it, sung by Madonna. This movie is crazy. Everybody is in it.
Yeah, everybody is in it. So I don't know, John. I mean, I think we both got kind of a new look at Dick Tracy recently. Do you remember the last time you had seen it?
I mean, it would have to be right around when it was probably like 93, my guess would be, where it's just like, oh, let's watch Dick Tracy. And that's it.
Yeah. Why not? You're at someone's house after school. It's,
sure.
Pop in the VHS of Dick Tracy.
And I do want to mention that what's really cool about doing this podcast and watching a lot of these movies that probably haven't seen since they came out on VHS cassette is watching them in high definition is a trip, because it's like Dick Tracy, I can tell you with almost certainty that I saw it in the theaters. But and watching it there, it's, you know, it's one thing, but then like watching it at home with like crystal clear, you know, picture and audio, it's something that I never expected would happen, yet here we are. It's kind of cool.
John, it's funny that you should say this, and I definitely had the same feeling as I said, and it's funny because, you know, we're in the process of moving, and right now our TV room pretty much just has a TV, and then there's like this little, it's not even a love seat, it's like some type of chair, like couchy chair. It's a couchy chair. It's Cherry. No, not as comfortable as Cherry from Pee-wee's Playhouse, but so basically it's like the setup is just like was me sitting on this like one chair in the middle of the room just staring up at the TV, and I was just like, it's like I'm in the movie theater.
Yeah, right.
I almost jumped into a Last Action Hero. I'm in the movie.
Yeah, it was kind of wild. I mean, just watching this movie itself now feels really weird. And there's a lot of really cool things about it. The kind of like painted set design is very visually interesting. The opening sequence, the opening credit sequence, which feels very noir comic strippy, which is kind of cool. And like I was saying, like the makeup that they have for all of the bad guys is really trippy. And it's really, really well done. Like they've really just transformed so many people. And I don't know. I mean, when I was curious to see if they were nominated for an Academy Award, when I saw they won, I was just like, okay, great.
And
Deserved.
Also nominated, I believe Al Pacino was nominated for Best Supporting Actor.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Dan, do you want to give as brief as possible of a synopsis of this movie? And that's not a judgment of you. It's a judgment of how crazy this movie is.
And it's funny because I feel like we're kind of not on the same page on how crazy the movie is. I mean, it's basically Dick Tracy. Dick Tracy's this like good guy super cop who's you know by the book, and well, not by the book. Not necessarily by the book, but he's justice is going to be done, and he's going to save the day, and he's out to get the organized. He's going to bring down organized crime in, I believe it's meant to be Chicago, and so he's out to get. And now the boss in town, like the big criminal who's now starting to take over kind of the smaller criminal networks, in a very similar fashion to how the Joker does it in 1989's Batman, which we'll talk about that in a moment, the similarities between these two and how it's not accidental, really not that much. But so Big Boy Caprice is this gangster, and he takes over like the big club in town. He takes out the Lips Manless, who runs the club Ritz, which is where Breathless Mahoney, played by Madonna, sings. And Big Boy takes it over, and it's going to be he's going to reopen the club, and he's got he tries to get all the other gangsters in town to kind of join in with him and form, I guess, even a more organized crime family or network. And so Dick Tracy is out to get him, and he's going to do whatever he can. He meets along the way on a raid. He meets Breathless. He interrogates Breathless. She hits on him. Warren Beatty and Madonna start dating. Not in the movie yet. And then Breathless. And then there's this mysterious villain who's also coming around. This villain is killing off different gangsters. They don't have a face. They talk like Princess Leia in disguise as a bounty hunter from Return of the Jedi. Like literally exactly the same.
It's true.
And this is like the blank. we see that there's this kind of odd suspicion, weird tension going on with the piano player at the Club Ritz, 88 Keys, played by Mandy Patinkin, who he and Breathless have this, like, not a romantic relationship, but kind of this friendship where they're both, like, you know, not happy with the circumstances they're in, working for Big Boy. Meanwhile, Dick Tracy's got this longtime girlfriend, Tess Trueheart, who he's a kind of like borderline engaged. They're like engaged to be engaged type thing. And as they're, you know, out on the town, he finds this kid played by Charlie Korsmo of What About Bob? And
right.
he basically takes this kid in who's been living like with this abusive older man, just physically abusive and, you know, verbally abusive. But Dick Tracy takes in the kid. He's dealing with this relationship with Tess Trueheart. Breathless Mahoney is flirting with him and wants him. Big Boy Caprice keeps like, you know, slipping through Dick Tracy's fingers. And then there's this blank who's going around, and we don't know who the blank is working for. So I guess in that respect, it's got kind of a crazy plot.
Well, one of the things that I'm really talking about is, and I think that I read this in maybe it was the IMDb trivia, but allegedly Warren Beatty wasn't sure if there was ever going to be a sequel, so he kind of threw all of the characters into it.
Yeah.
And for that reason, it's just a little wild. And it's a bit much.
It is a bit much, but I've always felt that way. And I remember even from seeing it, and if I can, I don't know how well you remember Summer 1990.
Not very well.
I remember it. I think I remember it a bit better. And so Dick Tracy was the big hyped comic adaptation of that year. Back when there wasn't even one a year. It was like Batman came out in 1989. And there was so much hype and merchandising around Batman. It was such a hit that Disney was looking to replicate that with Dick Tracy, which had been in, this is a big screen Dick Tracy, had been in the works for a long time. Like, you know, probably since Warren Beatty was in his prime to play.
Warren Beatty was kicking the idea around since the 70s.
And a lot of different,
when it probably was more appropriate for somebody like him to be playing Dick Tracy.
And you probably would get away a little bit better with a movie with the name Dick in the title. That's not just the movie Dick.
Right. And just as a little side note here, this isn't even the first time there has been a Dick Tracy movie. I'm looking back as early as 1937.
You got the Ralph Bird Dick Tracy.
Yep, we got the Ralph Bird Dick Tracy, then Dick Tracy Returns, Dick Tracy's G-Men.
Dick Tracy's Dilemma.
Dick Tracy versus Crime Incorporated. And then there was the Michael Conway Dick Tracy movies starting in 45. Dick Tracy versus Cue Ball, Dick Tracy's Dilemma, Dick Tracy meets Gruesome. And then, only those first two were with Michael Conway. Then back to Ralph Bird for Dick Tracy's Dilemma, Dick Tracy meets Gruesome. Ralph Bird had a live action television series, Dick Tracy. And then in 61, there was the animated television series with Mel Blanc and Everett Sloan called The Dick Tracy Show. And then, in 67, there was another television pilot for Dick Tracy. Yeah, so there's been a lot. But now now Warren Beatty owns the rights to the character, and we've got crickets. Yeah,
I mean, so Warren Beatty was going to... So nothing happens for a long time. It goes through different directors. Tim Burton was considered to direct, I think, like around the time that they did make it. Warren Beatty ends up directing it and starring in it, which I do like Warren Beatty. I'm a fan of him as a director, as an actor. I kind of was watching this feeling like I wish someone else was playing Dick Tracy.
Well, he played it like he was playing a character. Like he didn't become Dick Tracy.
I didn't believe like he was a tough guy detective. I thought it was
No.
Warren Beatty playing detective.
Right. And I mean, I know that I've read at some point some of the Dick Tracy comic strips and stuff like that, but I remember him being more of like mysterious.
Well, and you know, he had the whole thing was like how he had like the nose or the square chin, or it was the profile. And I found myself, it was interesting because I was thinking, I was like, well, who would have been better as Dick Tracy? And then I thought about Alec Baldwin, and then I thought about, but they tried that with Alec Baldwin when they did The Shadow.
The Shadow, exactly. I mean, it's the same exact thing essentially. Pretty
much. Well, yeah, that's why I'm like, is that where the mystery? I mean, I don't know. I didn't know much about Dick Tracy other than that he was just like, he's a cop, but he's like a really like, you know, do the right thing, make sure justice is served at any cost.
Yeah. Well, you know who I think would have been an interesting choice at that time would have been somebody like Liam Neeson.
Around 1990. Yeah. Liam Neeson would have been.
Because he's also just a much bigger force of, you know.
Well, absolutely. Liam Neeson would have been
Darkman.
Liam Neeson did Darkman, which is an awesome movie. But Liam Neeson would have been great as Dick Tracy. He's got that more intimidating voice. Whereas Warren Beatty is more like Warren. Sorry, Warren Beatty. I liked you much better.
Guy.
I liked him the following year as a gangster in Bugsy.
Mm-hmm.
He's good as a smooth talker, but not like when I would see him in the fighting. When I'd see him fighting, it was like it just came across as like a vanity thing. And
totally.
Yeah, and what's unfortunate about that is the supporting cast is so great. I was going to say colorful, but then that would be confusing it with the actual like look of the film, which is extremely colorful and vibrant. Like you were saying, like the painted sets, the look of the film was just beautiful. And to watch it in, in high definition was really a treat.
Right. So just to,
Gabriel Byrne, except he did Miller's Crossing that year. So
weird. So aside from the people we've mentioned, Al Pacino and Paul Sorvino, we've also got Dustin Hoffman as Mumbles, who
great.
Ends up being a bit of a rat. But he was great in this, and it's kind of nice that he
good.
Was a little bit of a side character. William Forsythe as Flat Top was awesome.
Yes, William Forsythe as Flat Top. James Caan has a cameo in it.
James Caan. Catherine O'Hara is also in there.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Kathy Bates.
Kathy Bates. But Kathy Bates, she was the stenographer. She wasn't one of the bad guys. Dick Van Dyke, though, was the DA who was dirty. Mm-hmm. And he was awesome. Always good to see Dick Van Dyke.
They just jammed all the dick into this. All right. Sorry. Yeah. I could not help it.
You really couldn't.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Oh, well, and I didn't mention before, but Glenn Headley of Dirty Rotten Scoundrels plays Tess Trueheart. Another performance.
She's great.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that character, like, it's
so what I think my casting problems are all with the principals.
That is true. Well, Charlie Korsmo, though, nailed it.
I take no issue with Charlie Korsmo. No. This was Charlie Korsmo had this awesome 1990-1991 trifecta of like Dick Tracy, Hook 1991.
91.
So it's like Dick Tracy, What About Bob, Hook, and Can't Hardly Wait in 1997.
Good time to be Charlie Korsmo.
Yeah. But I'd always felt like the film was slow, and I realize what it is. And all due respect to Madonna, Mandy Patinkin, and Stephen Sondheim, the songs. the songs when they're not part of the story. Like when she sings Sooner or Later, there's the montage of how Dick Tracy's catching all the criminals because they bugged Big Boy's office. And so like that was, I thought that was fine. But then there's like another part where it's just Mandy Patinkin and Madonna like singing a song for a few minutes. And it just didn't do anything to move the story forward. There's a scene where Big Boy is kind of like directing the rehearsals.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, the song goes on forever.
It really does. So I do want to mention how much I miss Madonna acting, because she really did some pretty awesome performances. I mean, Dick Tracy might not have been, well, it was a great use of Madonna because you had somebody who could do the singing and all of the moves and the seduction. And I think that she's also just like, she did a good job with some of the more dramatic parts. And clearly she's awesome in A League of Their Own, helmed by, written by
Gans and Babalu Mandel, the gods of humor and heart.
That's true. And gotta love Desperately Seeking Susan, Evita. She's just like,
she's great in Evita.
She's great, and I just miss seeing her on screen.
Yeah. I mean, I would say Dick Tracy is one of my lesser favorite performances of hers. And of course, when I thought about who I would rather see in the role, I first thought of Michelle Pfeiffer. And then it was like, wait a second, Fabulous Baker Boys was like 6 months earlier, where Michelle Pfeiffer played a lounge singer.
I think that Kim Basinger was also considered for this.
Who was the Vicky Vale in Batman a year earlier. Because that was another name that I thought of.
Yeah.
So I think Sean Young was cast at a certain point, but like since she was batshit crazy,
she was cast as Tess Trueheart. Oh,
as Tess Trueheart.
Yeah,
she would have been more interesting.
Probably. But anyway, it's a fun movie to look at, but just don't look too close, I think.
Yeah, no, and I'll be honest, I was enjoying it. Like I enjoyed watching it. I love the Danny Elfman score, though. Again, it's kind of like, it's almost like that you're trying to be Batman a little much.
I mean, he just did Batman. He was hired because of Batman.
Well, but I feel like Warren Beatty said to him, like, do something kind of like you did with Batman. Like, come up with a cool, like, dun, 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 dun.
And I remember seeing something from Danny Elfman, and this goes along with what a lot of people were saying about Warren Beatty as a director, that he was just like awful to work with, just completely terrible. So, I mean, I feel like if I was Danny Elfman at that time, who was pretty new to film scoring, I guess he's probably 5 years in, because he started with Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
6 years in, 5 years in. Yeah.
And so I bet that now he wouldn't put up with that, but
Right. No,
yeah.
Now, yeah. But yeah, so I guess, but it's really a fun movie to watch. And if you haven't seen it since the days of VHS, and you've never seen it, especially if you haven't seen it like on a big, quote unquote, big screen, it's worth, the digital rental, or, I don't know, check your local library, see if they have, but it's definitely worth checking out again. It's a lot of fun. It's got a lot of, like we've been saying, just a lot of famous faces pop up. Seymour Cassell, who recently passed away as Sam Ketchum, is great. Michael J. Pollard is in it. Just, everyone.
It's an immense cast.
Yeah. So John, in terms of, okay. What do you think?
My crystal ball look into the future of Dick Tracy, and clearly this would have to happen after Warren Beatty is no longer with us and the rights are in somebody else's hands.
Oh, sorry. Can I jump back to the casting?
Yeah.
So for Tess Trueheart, you know who would have been perfect? And God damn it, if he had only met her sooner, Annette Bening. Miss Warren, I'm not going to call her Miss Warren Beatty. It's disrespectful. She's an amazing actress. Warren Beatty met Annette Bening while they were making Bugsy and has been married to her pretty much ever since. But man, she would have been a fantastic Tess Trueheart. Anyway, sorry.
I mean, she's fantastic all the time, always. I watched Regarding Henry not too long ago. Man, you just feel like you want to spend time with her. She's just delightful.
Yeah.
So what I could, and I kept this pretty simple because this is such a rich world, and I don't know enough about the history or what some of the comics were like back in the day. But I will say I would not mind seeing a reboot of Dick Tracy, just done now, complete refresh. And I would want to see, and let me tell you how I came to this casting decision for Dick Tracy, because it's something that I was like, first of all, I was fighting just jumping to Oscar Isaac because instantly that's where I wanted to go. But I was like, no.
How's he going to play Big Boy if he's playing Dick Tracy?
That's another good point. But I was just like, who could possibly play Dick Tracy? And I'm not saying this to let everybody know that I went to the gym today, but I went to the gym today and I know. Thank you.
That's genuine. That's genuine applause from me. I don't know how recently you've been to the gym, but like since
this is today, my third time back, and I've been going like once a week. But anyway, I was running on a treadmill, and I was like trying to clear my head, and I was like, I need to just think about who I would cast as Dick Tracy and not think about how in pain I am right now. And all of a sudden it came to me and I was like, yes, Justin Theroux, 100% Dick Tracy.
Huh. Justin Theroux's Dick Tracy.
Because he's got that, like, there's something going on behind those eyes, and I don't know what it is, but I'm intrigued. And he's got that face. I mean, clearly in the comics, Dick Tracy is a more like, I don't know, a larger presence, and Justin Theroux is very lean. But who cares? And the signature yellow, hat and trench coat, they'd find a way to make it work. But like, I don't know. I just see Justin Theroux, and I could watch him do anything. He's great.
Yeah, Justin Theroux is great. And now, would you keep this? You'd keep it? Tell me more about your idea here.
There's not much of an idea, but it would be fewer characters. There's a lot less. I mean, I like the intrigue of somebody like Breathless Mahoney, but it made me uncomfortable because you could tell that he was like considering sleeping with her while he was also like engaged to be engaged. So it was kind of like, that's kind of, ugh, I don't like that. So I would probably eliminate the Tess Trueheart character, or I'd make it something along the lines of like, he's with somebody who's obviously wrong for him. Mm-hmm. And then there would be, and I wouldn't have a good Breathless Mahoney replacement. The obvious one would be like Lady Gaga, but or I was thinking Michelle Williams. Oh, Michelle Williams, that'd be good. Have you seen Fosse Verdon? No, I hear it's great though. I mean, how much I love Sam Rockwell. So yeah, well, no, I know, that's what I'm saying, and I would totally put Sam Rockwell in the Big Boy role. Oh, I mean, yeah, Sam Rockwell. I mean, or Mumbles. To anyone who has not watched the Fosse Verdon
miniseries about Bob Fosse and Gwen Verdon. Please, it is streaming on Hulu. It was on FX. I think I have one more episode to go on it, but their performances are, it's some of the best screen acting I've seen in a while.
I got to check it out. And along those lines, I know that Warren Beatty did approach Bob Fosse to direct Dick Tracy.
Yes, that's thanks for bringing
also,
that back.
And I was noticing in some of the choreography for Madonna's character, you can see a lot of like Bob Fosse moves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was trying to think, who I would like to see as Dick Tracy, and I guess I had a couple. I mean, what else are you thinking as far as
look, I'm not going to write the movie. I just would like to say I'd like to see this rebooted. It's been a while, and the one from 1990, just like, it doesn't really hold up all that great. If there were to be a replacement for the kid, it would have to be Jacob Tremblay.
Who's in Dr. Sleep.
Is he really?
He's in Dr. Sleep, yeah. I
Awesome.
don't know what his role in it is, but I know he's in it. So I was having trouble. I was trying to think of contemporary actors who are like the right age and who would like fit that character well. Cause I mean, it's too late for George Clooney.
Yeah.
It's too late for Liam
Neeson.
I was actually thinking like Ben Affleck. And I know he just did Batman, so it's kind of like, I'm not saying I'm excited about the idea of Ben Affleck as Dick Tracy, but, and of course, like I just think of Sam Rockwell or Oscar Isaac. I actually had thought about Bradley Cooper as well.
Yeah.
But none of those ideas really excite me. Do you go Hemsworth on it?
Yeah, I mean, physicality, that would work, but I don't know. I
don't know if live action is the way to reboot it. Or I was thinking it would be really cool. Like I'd be interested to see a reboot, a readaptation in a style similar to like Sin City.
Zack Snyder style.
Where that was a kind of Zack Snyder style, but that was Robert Rodriguez on that one.
I'm just thinking the style, where it's very like high contrast, like blacks blown out, whites blown out, just like super cartoony.
Sin City, Zack Snyder's kind of is like that. I don't know how else to describe it, but I felt like the aesthetic of Sin City was kind of like you were watching a noir comic book coming to life. Well, so it's almost like it's almost kind of like they took the concept for Dick Tracy and stepped it up for Sin City.
Have you seen Into the Spider-Verse?
Not yet.
You should, and I think that would be another route to go. That's even more like watching a comic book.
But that's what I think. I think animated is probably the way to go. Either that or as a series, and have like a detective, have a Dick Tracy series, and whether it's a series of short films, kind of like in the style of like a Sherlock, where they're kind of almost separate stories, or if you go weekly series.
Well, then the question is also, do you keep it set in the 30s, or do you put him in a different era?
See, that's the one thing. I think you got to keep it in the 30s. Otherwise, it's just another cop show.
Right. Which, I don't know. I think that putting him in a different era could be interesting in some ways, but also I'd
put him in the 60s. If anything, I'd put him in the late 60s.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
I want to see
but
Dick Tracy in the era of like hippies. And I mean, it would kind of be like the Altman's The Long Goodbye, with where, Elliot Gould doing the Raymond Chandler thing, but in the 70s.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like if it's always going to be in the 30s, it's going to feel repetitive because you just have a lot of mob stuff.
You know who I would be interested to see a Quentin Tarantino Dick Tracy.
Yeah.
Like seriously, and I'm not like jokingly like a Quentin Tarantino parody, but I would actually, it's kind of like how Quentin Tarantino said, "Oh, I want to, write and direct a Star Trek movie," and instantly everyone's like, "That could be interesting." I think a Quentin Tarantino Dick Tracy would be
starring Leonardo DiCaprio.
Starring Leonardo DiCaprio, Brett Pitt, Leonardo DiCaprio.
Samuel
I don't
L.
see as a Dick
Jackson.
Tracy. Let's see, Samuel L. Jackson. Who else has to get in there? Michael Madsen.
Walton
Walton Goggins. Got to have Walton Goggins and Kurt Russell.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Kurt Russell would have been a good Dick Tracy at a time.
That's true. So, Dan, I have to know, do you remember your first time seeing Dick Tracy?
Vaguely. I think I want to say I saw it at like the Movie City, like one of the like Movie City 5 or something in like Woodbridge, New Jersey, or in like Edison. I don't remember that. I really don't remember that clearly where and when I saw it.
Fair enough.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I
had to ask.
I mean, there's movies from that summer that I remember clearly. Like I remember seeing when I saw Die Hard 2 that summer at the Linden Cinemas. I remember that very well.
Let's talk a little bit about 1990 and the movies in 1990. So Dick Tracy came in 9th that year. 8th was Die Hard 2. So clearly more memorable for a reason by one more. Yeah. And then you got Total Recall, Hunt for Red October, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Pretty Woman, Dances with Wolves, Ghost, and Home Alone, which stars Macaulay Culkin, who was a potential for the role of the kid that went to Charlie Cosmo, but he opted to do Home Alone instead, which seemed to be the right move.
I think, decision well made.
So Box Office Mojo has some interesting figures. And Dan, this isn't necessarily a pop quiz hotshot, but I do want to know if you can guess some of the information that's provided by Box Office Mojo. So Dick Tracy ranks number 6 in adventure remakes. Do you know what might have come in the 5 before? And this is about movie grosses, by the way.
Wait, and this is in general?
In general.
Like up until 1990 or?
Oh, this is through present day.
Oh, so through present day. So, okay. So now
it's pretty impressive that this is actually 6th place.
So it's 6th place. So, and this is action adventure.
It's adventure remakes. It's 1980 to present.
Okay. So 1980 to present. Okay. I guess Batman's got to be in there.
Nope.
Wait, Batman's not in.
I don't think that was considered a remake. I think that those were all considered reboots.
But Dick Tracy was considered a remake? Okay. Action adventure remakes. This is a pop quiz.
There's no pressure. You don't have to answer this.
So well, I'm trying to think of first I'm trying to think of action adventure movies that came out between 1980 and I guess present that were action remakes and that
would you like me to give you would you like me to give you number 5? That might help.
Yeah, sure.
Number 5 is the 1999 movie The Mummy.
Okay. So number 5 is The Mummy. So then number 4 would be
It is a
I don't
movie
know,
that came out in
John.
2010. I'll just tell you. Clash of the Titans from 2010, and then the 2001 Planet of the Apes. The 2000
I was thinking that one, yeah.
Mhm. The 2005 King Kong, and then 2016's The Jungle Book.
Yeah, okay. The only one of those that I would have guessed was the whatchamacallit. I wasn't thinking King Kong. I definitely wasn't thinking The Jungle Book.
Planet of the Apes.
Planet of the Apes was the only one that kind of crossed through my mind, and then But
there's also a category in a ranking, and this is by box office numbers, for off-screen couples on screen, since Warren Beatty and Madonna were dating at the time. And I'm not going to quiz you on this, but this one came
this one I could probably guess.
All right, well, this one came in 10th. Would you know what came in 1 through 9?
I'll give. So
And
wait,
a
it's
lot
just
of these, I don't think that you would.
It's
maybe
movies.
you would.
It's movies starring on-screen couples who are also off-screen couples.
Yes.
Well, let's see. Is Bugsy on the list?
Bugsy is on the list.
Like, how
in
many Warren Beatty
18th
ones can we
place.
knock out? So,
That one's in 18th
Oh, I
place.
guess-
Then we have 29th for Love Affair.
Okay.
And then you got to
Like-
go pretty far back, I think, for anything else with him.
all right. So real life couples. I want to try to get a couple of them.
Okay.
Geez, I doubt Shanghai Surprise made the list with Sean Penn and Madonna.
That one came in like 46th.
Oh, well, all right. That's impressive. So real life couples. I'm trying to think. So, Days of Thunder.
I will tell you, all Tom Cruise movies came in after 10th place.
Okay. All right. So no Eyes Wide
And there
Shut
are a
either.
lot of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Far and Away.
11th was Vanilla Sky when he was with Penelope Cruz.
Oh, right. I forgot about that.
13th is Days of Thunder. 14th is Far and Away. I know that there's definitely more. Because Eyes Wide Shut is 17th.
Wait, how about Edward Scissorhands? Is that on the list?
Edward Scissorhands is 15th place.
Okay. All right. So I'm getting them, just not in the top 10. All right. So Edward Scissorhands.
I will say this: the 5th place one is debatable because this is the movie that these actors starred in that began a controversial relationship.
Oh, A Star Is Born?
No,
Oh, wait, is that not official yet?
I don't think that's a real thing officially.
What, that Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga are dating? Anyway. So all right, so it was controversial. Ooh. I don't know if I'm gonna.
It's one that people still talk about, even though this happened quite some time ago.
Like, how long ago did this happen?
2005.
Okay, 2005. Oh, Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yes.
So-
Speaking of Nicole Kidman,
Yeah.
who was supposed to be Mrs. Smith.
Oh, really?
And then, Nicole Kidman was supposed to be Mrs. Smith. And then I think she was pregnant and couldn't do it.
Interesting.
So then Angelina Jolie was recast. And then,
And then history changed for everybody. So if you'd like, I can just tell you
Yeah, go ahead.
the other ones. All right. So number 9 is Traffic with Michael Douglas and
Michael
Catherine
Douglas.
Zeta-Jones. Number 8 is Good Will Hunting, Matt Damon and Minnie Driver.
I thought you were going to say Matt Damon and Ben Affleck.
And Ben Affleck.
Because I didn't know Matt Damon was dating Minnie Driver.
Surprise.
I had no idea.
Number 7 is Scooby-Doo with Sarah Michelle Gellar and Freddie Prinze Jr.
Oh, I Know What You Did Last Summer on the list too?
Not in this portion. Then we've got There's Something About Mary, Cameron Diaz and Matt Dillon, Mr. and Mrs.
Didn't know
Smith.
about that one.
Then we've got A Quiet Place.
John Krasinski and Emily Blunt.
And then numbers 1, 2, and 3 are all Twilight movies.
Okay, well that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right.
I just thought that was fun that they even had that category.
Interesting. I guess, yeah.
So the past few episodes, we've been also talking about how we would recast movies that feature the actress June Squibb, as this is the month of June. And in the last episode, what was the last episode?
The last episode was In and Out.
Yeah. And then on this episode, we're talking about Meet Joe Black. So Meet Joe Black is a movie about Death, the character of Death who takes the form of a human and wants to just kind of get a tour of what it's like to be a human for a while. And that's my vague description.
Well, he's also he's come for this incredibly wealthy and powerful man who's played by Anthony Hopkins,
right?
And it's kind of like Anthony Hopkins makes him a deal.
Oh,
and
right.
Yeah, and the deal is just like, hey, you can let me have a couple of days, and then you can see what it's like to be alive, and you can live
And over that course
lavishly.
of time, he forms a relationship with Anthony Hopkins' character's daughter, played by Claire Forlani. Mm-hmm. And Dan, who would you put in those 3 roles?
So in the Anthony Hopkins role, so he's supposed to be around 65, because I was originally thinking Morgan Freeman, but then I'm thinking Morgan Freeman might be a little old.
Yeah.
Denzel Washington in the Anthony Hopkins role, who would be playing younger than 65, but not that much really. Mm-hmm. So I put Denzel Washington there. For the daughter, I was kind of thinking Tessa Thompson. I don't know if I just have Tessa Thompson on the brain from the Creed movies and seeing her in all the Men in Black ads.
Right.
And then for Death, I was kind of thinking, for some reason, I was like Freddie Highmore,
Freddie Highmore.
He
I haven't thought about him in quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, most people I think remember him as the young boy from Finding Neverland, and he played Charlie in Tim Burton's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and he's on the CBS show The Good Doctor.
Oh, okay.
And I was trying to think of like a young actor, and now here's where I'm not 100% on that, is because I just the Tessa Thompson, Freddie Highmore mix. I'm like, I don't, and maybe it's just because I'm so
chemistry there.
There does need to be some chemistry there. So, maybe Chris Evans. Maybe Chris Evans,
Chris Evans, I mean, him now feels very Brad Pitt in the 90s, Yeah. Although I think he's got more of an off-screen personality. He's looking to step away. He's kind of stepping away from Marvel and probably looking to branch out and do more of a variety of things. So a project like this, I think, would kind of use him well. Mm-hmm. So okay.
I could see Chris Evans.
Yeah.
Why
no
not?
one's remaking Meet Joe Black, just to be clear.
No one is doing that. And that was, I believe that was directed by Martin Brest, was it not?
It was.
And I guess it's like, and I don't know if Martin Brest directed another movie after that, which is kind of sad because Martin Brest directed two of my favorite movies of the 80s, Beverly Hills Cop and Midnight Run.
Right. Oh, Midnight Run is so good.
Midnight Run is kind of one of those anytime movies where it's like, I will watch Midnight Run. If I've got 2 hours, I don't know what to do with them. I mean, that never happens, but if it were to happen, watching Midnight Run would be an option.
Well, now that we do this podcast and you always have homework to do. Yeah. So I definitely did think about Tessa Thompson for that Claire Forlani role. But I pushed away from it just because I didn't want to like always be jumping back to the same people. So for the Anthony Hopkins role, I went with John Malkovich.
Oh,
I know, you just gasped, and it was.
I love John
correct.
Malkovich.
He's wonderful, and I think that he would be good for that part. Granted, this is all information that I'm giving you based on the clips that I've seen on YouTube, as I've not seen the actual full movie.
Yeah, full disclosure, neither have I.
Yeah. That said, John Malkovich, and as his daughter, I would like to see Zoe Saldana. Another person who is no longer part of, is like stepping away from the Marvel stuff. Although I guess probably Guardians 3 is a thing.
Is she stepping away from Star Trek and Avatar as well?
Probably not, but it's like, it'd be nice to see her in something that's not like a huge, like $zillion franchise.
I mean, Zoe Saldana can act like without the special effects. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So it's like good opportunity to do that. And then for the Joe Black character, Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I think you got what I was kind of looking for, and that I was kind of like, yeah, Freddie Highmore could do that, but Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt is extremely charming. Somebody who can get away with doing what Death would be doing in this situation. Looks great in a suit. We know this from all the Christopher Nolan movies he's been in. Just like, charismatic, and it's been a minute since we've really seen him. So I feel like he's been Gordon-Levitt.
I feel like I guess just from what I see on Twitter, he kind of just does. He's kind of doing a lot of his own thing.
Record thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I took a step this week. I took Twitter off my phone. So
whoa. Okay.
I took Twitter and Facebook off my phone this week, and I want to say I'm proud of that. And actually, John, before we move on and before we close up shop, I do want to say I want to wish you and all the dads out there a happy Father's Day.
And same to you.
Well, a belated, by the time this is posted, it will have been Father's Day. Right now it is before Father's Day, but Dan,
I thought you were just going to praise me for my Lowell Gans and Babalu Mandel memes that I put on Instagram.
Well,
but
John, if
that's what you want to talk about.
No. I have a few things to say. Yeah, if you have not been following the Ruined Childhoods Pod Instagram feed, John has been on a roll with the memes, and I really I want to know. Every time I see one, I'm like, I want them to know. I want them to see these. I want Lowell Gans and Babalu Mandel to know that they are appreciated. And I mean, I'm sure they do, because like they've made like millions of dollars. Sure. More than that, probably.
So, yeah, I mean, on the last episode, we were talking about this wonderful writing team, and somehow I said that we would be releasing memes about them on our Instagram page. And, I'm a man of my word, and I wanted to do right by that claim. And it was a lot of fun, and it's somewhat challenging. I am not somebody who gravitates towards meme culture, so it was an exercise for me. And I think I've got like one more to post at the time of this recording.
Oh, that's exciting. Very exciting.
The one with the squirrel nuts.
I was wondering if that one was going to make it, and that's what that other photo you sent me made me think of.
The other photo I sent you. Oh,
John,
I sent Dan a photo today. When I was walking back from the gym, I saw there was a construction site, and there was on a crane dangling 2 porta potties. And of course, I had to take a picture and send it to Dan immediately, thinking about Proctor from Police Academy 4 Citizens on Patrol. Now, whenever I see a crane holding a porta potty, got to take a picture as quick as possible.
Yeah, which I don't know that I had ever seen one outside of Police Academy 4 Citizens on Patrol.
It's been a day.
Yeah, it has. But yeah, so anyway, anything
Next
else?
Episode.
And John, do you have anything else to say about Dick Tracy?
Never again.
Never again. This is the last time Dick Tracy will be spoken of between us.
So on our next episode
will be the very first time we ever discuss the Cannonball Run.
This is true.
I don't think we've ever talked about the Cannonball. I don't know if I've ever talked about
mic.
Cannonball Run that's what I mean. Like nowhere. This will be the first ever discussion between most of these movies that we talk about. Like at some point we've spoken about them, not to this extent.
Yeah, sure. So Cannonball, I'm really excited about it because it's a movie that I've always wanted to see and haven't seen.
Yeah,
and
June 1981.
Yeah. So following in line with our June movie release theme. And then our next and final, is it the final?
I believe it is
It's the final of our June Squibb
week.
recasts will be Age of Innocence.
Yes, the Age of Innocence.
Yeah. So buckle up.
All right,
everybody. Cannonball Run and the Age of Innocence, 2 movies that go together like peanut butter and jelly.
I totally want to do a double feature of the Age of Innocence and Cannonball Run.
Put them both on at the same time on either side of you and just like sit in a swivel chair and just go around and around and around.
It's like, oh, let's see what's happening. It's Winona Ryder is crying, and Dom DeLuise is wearing a cape, and Daniel Day-Lewis, Sammy Davis Jr.
Dan, wake up, wake up, wake up. It was just a nightmare.
Oh, no, it's Dom DeLuise in a cape. All right, John, good journey.
Good journey to you, Dan.
He's got a bulldog jowl.
Big Tracy.
Why, he's the arm of the law.
Big Tracy.